Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, it's your boy, the Beanie Boy, not Dave Meltzer, but your fave Meltzer, the South African Wrestling Observer. Welcome back to yet another Stomp video, but this one is more special than the rest. This one is simply better than the rest because, yes, as you can see, I've got the boy MPKH, both filtered and unfiltered. I've got Ricardo, Mr. WrestleDrop, but we've also got two amazing South African wrestling content creators joining us tonight or this evening or whenever you're watching this. We've got, firstly, the Jungle King, the fire of pro wrestling. Ooh, my voice even cracked. Bro, you've got some clout. You've got some clout. I'm serious. You got my voice cracked. Sorry about that. But I think the real reason why my voice cracked is because I'm scared of the next guest. I'm scared of the next guest. He is a pro wrestler. He is a podcast host. He is a TikToker. He is a content creator. And he is a loudmouth, Mr. Loudmouth, the Loudmouth himself. The longest reigning champion in CPW history. I don't care who says what. I don't care what the stats say. That's who we got. Oh, yes.
Oh,
he's got the belt.
Strap.
Oh.
He's got the strap. He's got the strap. Oh, yes.
Okay, I'm coming for that.
Wow.
Coming for that.
Okay. Yeah, we got to. We got to. It's coming home. It's coming home. So, gents, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Gents, welcome to the video. Like I said, great to have Mr. Loudmouth and Mr. Mashomi for Pro Wrestling with us. As you read by the title of the video, we're discussing something Summerslam season related because we are in the season of Summerslam. It is the greatest party of the summer. We are discussing today who is Mr. Summerslam. Who is Mr. Summerslam overall? Not because of one good match, not because of a few wins at SummerSlam. Overall, who is Mr. SummerSlam? Now, this discussion has been going on behind the scenes for a while now, but now we're here to bring it to you, the Stomp Wrestling fan. So, gentlemen, I think, as I should, let's start with our guests, just to make sure that they come back. Just to make sure that they come back for another video. Let's start with, let's see, the champ himself, the Loudmouth. Who is Mr. SummerSlam?
The Black Skull of Fate has denounced and has decreed that Mr. SummerSlam is the one and only 16-match SummerSlam MVP, Mr. Randall Keith Orton.
Ooh.
Interesting.
Interesting pick.
All right.
That coming.
All right. I'm glad you finished it off. I thought you were going to say it was MVP. But anyway.
I thought you were dropping a promo on us here.
When I heard MVP, I was like...
The Jungle King himself. Who is Mr. SummerSlam? Before we get into the Stomp discussions, who is Mr. SummerSlam for you?
For me, it's Brock.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Spoiler alert, I also think it's Brock. But let's go to the boys. Let's go to Mr. WrestleDrop off the top rope himself. Ricardo.
It's Bret Hart.
Who is Mr. SummerSlam?
Bret Hart. Nobody else. Bret Hart.
Bret the Hitman Hart. Bret
the best matches in SummerSlam history.
The excellence of execution.
Exactly.
Fair enough.
Exactly.
Fair enough. Mr. Filtered and Unfiltered, Mr. MPKH. Who is Mr. SummerSlam?
The guy that's going up against the Tribal Chief for the Undisputed World Championship. The Beast Incarnate himself, Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, correction. You mean the guy that's going to lose to the Tribal Chief?
Oh, hell no. Yes, sir. Ain't
That's
no
a
way
video
Brock
for
is
another day. So let's not
Ain't
get
no
any
way
spoilers
Brock
here.
is winning.
I'm just throwing it out there. Okay.
I didn't say he was winning. I said he's going up against the Tribal Chief. So yeah.
I know. I just finished your sentence for you.
He corrects.
All right.
Simple as that.
Basically, yes.
All right, cool. Like I said, I also think it's Brock Lesnar, but I think now it's time to to defend our superstar, why do you say it's Randy Orton? Why do you say it's MVP? Why do you say it's Bret the Hitman?
Oh my God, no.
So yeah, I want to know. Let's start from where we ended. Mr. MPKH, why Brock Lesnar? Give us a reason why.
Well, the reason I say Brock Lesnar personally. I mean, you can argue Bret, you can argue Brock, whoever, but Brock Lesnar for me, it all stems down to the opponents that he's faced and also the moments that he's also created. His first SummerSlam match was against The Rock himself at SummerSlam 2002 for the WWE Championship, and nobody expected the Young Buck to win the championship within 6 months of him being in the company, especially when you beat one of your biggest box office attractions in all of entertainment. And then he followed it up the following year with Kurt Angle in a match that was almost similar to how they faced off at WrestleMania 19, but it was a classic match. Then I don't have to talk about 2004 to 2011 because we all know what he did that side. Then as a return match, then he creates matches with Triple H, CM Punk, has a dominating squash match against John Cena, which still traumatizes the shit out of me.
Yeah.
And then, so yeah, I guess basically the names that he's faced and some of the moments that he's created at SummerSlam, his resume speaks for itself, really. That's why I think Brock Lesnar is Mr. SummerSlam.
No doubt for me. I feel like, I acknowledge all the accomplishments that he's put forth at the pay-per-view. But crushing Super Cena like that was crazy.
That was crazy.
That was crazy.
As some people declare the SummerSlam 2014 night the end of Super Cena. To which
definitely
I agree. I agree to an extent.
I rewatched that match for in preparation for the top 10 SummerSlam matches video that we put out.
Yeah.
And I was just, because I completely forgot about the match. And I was just like, Cena got no offense in. Nothing. One AA, and that was it. It's a glorified squash.
One attempt at an STF.
You heard that right.
Yeah, and an STF.
German duplexes. Bro.
Crazy.
I mean,
that isn't dominating the birth. I don't know what it is.
That was the birth of Suplex City. I think.
Also,
I agree.
Also the fact that he also annihilated Randy Orton at SummerSlam 2016. Like, God.
Yeah.
Loudmouth, I'm sorry for mentioning your MVP like that, but
let's get to that actually. Let's get to that because I wanted to go in order, but now you name dropped RKO, and RKO was the Big Don's pick. So Big Don, defend your wrestler. Why Randy Orton for Mr. SummerSlam?
Well, I wasn't gonna mention that, but I'm gonna mention it specifically because of the fact of the after effects of what happened at that night. Because when Brock got through Gorilla, Chris Jericho actually went and they actually almost went into fisticuffs. They had to be pulled apart. Yeah. Now that specifically sets a precedent in other people's minds. You must remember that between WrestleMania and Survivor Series, this time of the year is Randy some of his best matches, SummerSlam, Survivor Series. He's been the sole survivor on his team 3 times. Matches, he's had his best feuds, and the longevity of it. He's had more matches at SummerSlam than any of these other guys put together. He's beaten Super Cena. He's been in the ring with Brock. You didn't remember Cena's beatdown, but you remember Randy Orton's beatdown. Now that for me creates a different type of aura around Orton, because not only can Orton be a megastar at this time of year, but he can also create moments at this time of year. And that's what sets him apart from Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar will go in and dominate. Randy Orton will give you the experience. this time of year. And that's the difference between the two. That's why I chose Randy instead of Brock.
I see it.
And I think
see it.
Understandable. I get you.
I think you're exercising the whole idea of this topic, because we could be looking at one facet of a wrestler, and that's their dominance at the pay-per-view. You've got the loudmouth who goes against what you're saying, not writing off what you're saying to say, but giving you a different perspective. So for you, why is Brock Mr. SummerSlam?
Well, you know what the stuff MPKH said, right? It's all true. Brock wasn't around for a few years, so he missed out on a bunch of SummerSlams. But when he came back, the name value and his draw drew in a lot of people to see what he's gonna do. I remember, like in that year, 2012, they built his match with Triple H as like something like a storm is coming or whatever that was, right?
Yeah.
And the arena was packed, waiting for that match to happen, so we could see what would go on. And then the next year after that, the story between him, Paul, and Mpho. And then, of course, you know, Super Cena's death. Need I say more about that, really?
R.I.P. Super Cena.
Yeah. Oh, and another one would be his short little feud with Undertaker in 2015. Now that match, the ending, that ending didn't really, you know, correlate with me that well, you see, because it was confusing, it was messy, but you know, that's neither near or there. But basically, what I'm trying to get at is that around the summer, Brock Lesnar is a really big draw that the company can use, and I see why they keep using him over and over again. And he's always featured in a lot of SummerSlam posters, so you can see the hype and the name value that he carries. Always around that time, so that's why I feel like he could make a very strong case to be Mr. SummerSlam, regardless of how many wins or losses he has.
I feel like
he also inspired the Great Rock Show.
Well, say again?
I feel like Brock is a draw all year around, and he can go, he'll get a reaction. Whether people are booing him, whether people are cheering him, when you hear his theme, if it's after 3 weeks, I mean, we consider him an active wrestler at the moment.
Even though
he's obviously quite
questionable.
But he's there, and is that the young fire of pro wrestling?
Yeah. Young fire wrestling, I think.
Yeah, my cousin's pulling up to say hi.
But the point I'm getting at is Brock is a draw any time of the year. So he can fill out an arena if he wants to. And it's all the more important the build up. When he gets to a main event match or a marquee match, the build up. Because yes, he's a draw, as I've tried to allude to, but I think Brock is such big of a draw that they neglect the storytelling part of his run. You know, I don't know if I'm making sense,
that's a fair assessment too.
I don't know if I'm making sense, but Brock can be thrown into a match against John Cena at SummerSlam for no reason. And I feel like that's the one thing that hurts him in all his feuds. I mean, the one with Roman recently only makes sense because it's been happening for so long. But the lack of story in Brock's character and in Brock's booking is a flaw for me. It's a flaw. But that does not take away anything from the man and the size of his name, you know. But Mr. WrestleDrop, have you done your research on Brett? I saw you left us for a second to go complete your research.
You needed to get those papers.
I couldn't carry on listening to you talking about Brock, so I left for a bit.
Even me saying Brock just got me nauseous.
This is the way I look at it, though. We did our top 10 matches at SummerSlam. The top 4, 3 of the top 4 had Bret Hart. So you had a match against the British Bulldog, which could arguably be number 1. Match against Mr. Perfect could arguably be number 1. Match against Owen Hart could arguably be number one. 3 matches
Right.
could arguably all be the best match in SummerSlam history. And the build-up with the Owen Hart match, excellent. The British Bulldog had a good story because of the whole in the UK and whatever. And the Mr. Perfect match also had a good build-up. So to me, that's why it puts him on top. The fact that all 3 of his matches could be the best in SummerSlam history.
And 2 of those matches he had. Oh wait, no, 3 of those singles matches that he had with, let's say, Perfect, Hart, and Bulldog all contained the Intercontinental Championship involved.
I didn't even realize that.
Yeah. So I was looking, like, after I did the video, I searched the Bret Hart matches, and most of those matches had the IC Championship involved.
But the Owen Hart was the WWE Championship. Owen Hart's match was the WWE.
No, it was IC Championship.
WWE.
Really?
94. Bret was already past the IC Championship in 94.
Oh, damn.
Yeah. The first 2 were definitely.
I think the main point, I think the main point there is all 3 of the matches were championship matches. Whether it was for the IC title or for the world title, they were championship caliber matches. But it's interesting you mentioned those 3 matches because out of those 3 matches, you must understand, 92, Bulldog had gone out with Jim the Anvil Neidhart and did drugs the whole night.
He couldn't remember anything.
He had to drag Bulldog through that match.
Yeah.
The second one was Mr. Perfect. Mr. Perfect had a back injury and was going for back surgery.
Like I mentioned in the video.
He had a bad back. Yep. And then the third match with Owen Hart, Bret had himself a knee injury.
And that match as well, they were told
you gotta look at. Yeah.
With that match as well, they were told to tone down the violence of the steel cage, so they didn't even use it to its full potential. So with all these restrictions,
in terms of match, you cannot deny that those 3 matches, and I agree with you, they all could have been the best matches of it. But then, what else? With Brock F5'd a shark for SummerSlam. Randy was the Viper. He destroyed legends. His battles with Cena. All of these things. But besides those 3 matches, what did Bret Hart do at SummerSlam?
I just think that the stories of those matches as well, like the Owen Hart story.
Yeah, I think
the Mr. Perfect story. The moments that he gave the British Bulldog in the UK is one of the best moments they've had. So there's big moments as well. There's big moments.
Mm-hmm.
I think in that as well, it's very difficult to find matches that have, what can I call it, rewatch value. And all 3 of those Bret Hart SummerSlam matches that we're talking about have rewatch value. And these are matches that are 10, 12, 14 years old, And so I think
longer.
In that, in Bret Hart being in the conversation, I feel like it's for that reason that you could go on YouTube now, could go on the WWE network now, watch those matches and actually enjoy them. Adding the fact that you need to remember all these things that we just mentioned about working with injuries, about working with incompetence, about working with steel cage, barred, and all these things. Just having a match or having matches, I think that's another thing. It wasn't just 1 match, it wasn't just 2. 3 very good matches that you can watch in 2022 and think to yourself, those are probably the best SummerSlam matches ever. I think that's the thing with Bret Hart. So he's a good shot. So
like I mentioned, you can argue either Bret or Brock Lesnar are Mr. SummerSlam, and they both got the resumes for it. Even Randy Orton.
Just exclude Randy. Okay.
I even said including Randy.
The Loudmouth pulled a whole promo on us, and we just ignore his.
He has the most matches.
Oh, you can't ignore the premise. Fine.
Let me play devil's advocate
Not
here.
like that.
I've seen some people say Seth Rollins. Don't know why, but I've seen
Seth
some people
Rollins.
say that. Yeah.
I don't think
I've seen
Mr.
people say
Summers.
it.
He has a case, but
Yeah.
he has a case. He has a case.
What's
to
his
be Mr.
case?
Summerslam.
What's his case?
What you call it? It's the fact that he was the first ever WWE and United States champion in 2015. The feud,
He was
the
involved
feud
in
with
the
Dean Ambrose
Yeah.
and fighting against Finn Balor for the inaugural Universal Championship. Also, he reunited with Ambrose to be a tag team champion.
His IC title match with Ziggler.
Arguably one of the best in the modern era. Also last year's match with Edge. That was pretty dope. So Seth Rollins actually has a good case. He even put up a good fight with Dominic Mysterio.
Yeah.
So did you just say that?
I mean, in Dominic's case, he was a little bit green at the time. So
Still
you have to
is.
understand.
Still is.
What?
But he's not as green as he was before.
It was like
So-
one shade lighter.
He looks like he's got a Hitman Crisp.
Oh no, man.
Also,
I think-
I see on Twitter, some people are mentioning John Cena as Mr. SummerSlam. Now that's a sleeper pick for me.
I think the problem
Even
with
though he
Cena,
has the most.
That's an interesting one as well.
I think the problem
Also,
with
he has
Cena
the-
is all his accomplishments have been spread out. So WrestleMania,
That's the
SummerSlam,
thing.
Rumble.
John Cena can be missed
Doing random-
Yeah. So I
As
don't
far
think
as
it's
I'm
real.
specifically SummerSlam.
because he shines at every pay-per-view,
Yeah.
but not consistently.
And doesn't he have like more losses at SummerSlam than the guys we've mentioned so far?
Exactly
Probably
what
does.
I'm saying.
Probably.
Last I checked, he's got a 6-10 record at that event.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost
Wait,
as bad as
wait.
Triple H's at WrestleMania.
What?
I
Didn't catch it?
wanna go back to Seth and kind of reason why I don't think he's Mr. SummerSlam. I think yes, you're mentioning matches, but you're mentioning matches that, I mean, firstly, him becoming WWE and United States champion on the same night happened under controversial circumstances, and I hated that finish. I still do.
But-
All right,
Just
John
what-
Stewart.
Or
But you have to
the
understand.
interruption
that
was
Seth
not necessary.
But you have to understand that Seth was red hot during the time. So, but
So he could
I
have pinned
think
Cena
people
clean.
would have, and I
Could've,
think
could've.
people would have hated it if you had your top young guy lose to John Cena again, because
That's the
nobody
point.
wants Cena with the
The
title.
decision was correct. It's the way the match ended for me that I hate. I
But,
needed
yeah,
Seth
I
to go
get
over
you.
in that match. I needed Seth to go over in that match, which he did. But that chair shot
But-
finish was unnecessarily bad.
So Seth
Yeah.
Seth's probably the youngest guy we've mentioned on the list. So do you think he could
Yeah.
become Mr. SummerSlam
Potential.
in 10 years' time?
Well, in 10 years' time, I know he'll have. We might revisit this video again, and he'll have the good case actually.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Seth-
especially considering he's going to have a match with Riddle, which I'm sure is going to be an excellent match on Saturday. So, yeah, we'll just have to
I hope
revisit the case for Seth Rollins.
If
he's got a few years.
if that match with Riddle, if they give it 20 minutes and they
Match of the night.
they let the guys actually go, they don't give them as many restrictions, and they trust Seth and Riddle to go. This time next year we'll be talking of that match like we're talking about one of Bret Hart's matches.
Yeah.
Seth Rollins now, and Kevin Owens has got the same thing. They're transcending the titles at the moment. You don't need to put a title on them to have them in the conversation all the time. They're in the conversation all the time. It's just I don't think that at this point in time he is quite Mr. SummerSlam. There's one facet of this that is missing, and we might find it in Saturday's match if they give it enough time to breathe.
They gotta give it time.
That is it.
They gotta give it time.
They need to. Because
wait, hold up, guys.
going on right now, Rollins, he has the most losses in the WWE, and it doesn't really matter. So potentially, I think they'll steal the show come Saturday, like I said. So yeah, like you said, Loudmouth, they just need to give Riddle and Rollins enough time and be flexible in that ring, and all will be good. All will be great.
Yeah.
Wait, guys, how about the Undertaker in the conversation for Mr. SummerSlam?
Undertaker.
I think he's Mr. WrestleMania. So
Yeah, that's I agree with WrestleDrop there. He's not in this conversation. He's in the
He's
big
in WrestleMania.
conversation.
Yeah,
I mean, even Undertaker's been a part of a lot of great moments in SummerSlam history.
But are they?
If you think about it.
Okay.
I just think he's WrestleMania
2008 SummerSlam, yes.
with age.
And
Yeah,
1990, and I think 1997 SummerSlam with Bret Hart was actually pretty good because it gave us Shawn Michaels versus Undertaker in a feud in the first ever Hell in a Cell, like 3 months after that, which was awesome. But how many memorable moments has Undertaker had at SummerSlam that are memorable? The matches were good itself, but the moments, what can we say about that?
yeah. I remember the WrestleMania moments 1,000 times more than the SummerSlam moments.
yeah,
That's the way I look at it.
yeah. The SummerSlam ones were too gimmicky. You know, buried alive, the coffin matches and things like that. The SummerSlam ones were a bit more gimmicky for me, which kind of detracts from the
The longevity
you know,
of it.
from him being the top end from him being at the top end of the conversation.
But it kind of,
Okay, fair point.
I think it kind of suits Undertaker's. It kind of suited Undertaker's character, really.
No, for sure.
So
For sure.
they didn't need to have
Yeah.
They didn't need to have normal singles matches just to say I can do this at SummerSlam. You just gotta put me in that convo. He can do anything.
Yeah,
But like Ricardo said, he's Mr. WrestleMania alongside Shawn Michaels, which we'll talk about on another day. So yeah.
the point is that SummerSlam was written in such a way that the Undertaker could then take time off from SummerSlam. So you'll find a lot of his SummerSlam matches have janky finishes, so that something would happen, like he's buried alive, or he's put into a casket or something like that, so that they would give him time to recover. And you'll find a lot of this time, the Undertaker's not involved in the business, is because they've given him this between SummerSlam and Survivor Series, that time to like chill out and heal and rest up and things like that. So I haven't gone back and checked in the records, but as far as my knowledge goes, a lot of the SummerSlam was there to write him off of TV, to recover from either his hip injuries or his knee injuries or things like that. So that's why I'd rather have him in WrestleMania than I would have him in SummerSlam.
Fair enough.
I agree.
Few observations from the Loudmouth himself.
Can we quickly
The champ himself.
have an honorable mention
Yes,
to
sir.
Jeff Hardy? He's 0-7 at SummerSlam. 0 wins, 7 losses.
That's 100%.
100% loss ratio. So shout out to him.
The father of pro wrestling does not seem impressed.
I am not impressed. No, what is my guys? How has he lost at SummerSlam this month?
He lost to.
Give us the Jeff Hardy. Boy, come on, give us the Jeff Hardy there.
I know at SummerSlam 2000 he definitely lost. There was that ladder match he had with Punk in 2009. That one I remember him losing.
There's been a few.
What else? Oh yeah, SummerSlam 2020 he lost there.
Man, should have won, but I digress.
In that great ladder match with Styles and Zayn, he wasn't even at SummerSlam last year.
That was at another paper.
Wait. I think that's all I got so far. But the point is, how can you have lost that? How? Make that make sense.
Ooh, man. I can actually see the steam coming out of your ears, man.
You guys are breaking my heart out here now. Oh, fuck.
I think to avoid any more hearts being broken, because I know Mr. MPKH.
And you know what hurts me more?
Yeah.
Now, what hurts me more, right, is Jeff Hardy might never get a chance to redeem himself at SummerSlam because he's not even in WWE anymore.
With Vince hitting the skids, you never know. You're going to see a lot more guys that have been fired coming back. I may not be right away.
That's
not going to see some guys coming back. You're a two.
Don't expect to see John Moxley there anytime soon working. Just expect him in the Hall of Fame. Trust.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree.
If John Moxley makes it that far, he's bleeding all over the place. A guy opens up a box of cereal and he starts bleeding in the mornings.
That's foul.
Waiting for the AEW mobs, to be honest.
Yeah.
Here we go.
Hey, that's my
Our next discussion as this gathering should be which WWE superstars are coming back, because I mean the times have changed for the company and there's a lot that's still going to happen. So it's not going to be crazy to see people following Cody Rhodes under these circumstances. So I think that's something we should talk about definitely in another video. But as for this
we should
one,
also do like predictions for SummerSlam.
Yeah.
For sure.
As for this one though, final thoughts, I'll go in order this time, as I'm seeing it on my screen. First, Mr. MPKH, your final thoughts on this video that we've been embarking on today.
My final thoughts are, I'd say the top 5 best SummerSlam performers are Brock, Brett, Cena, who else? Rollins. Oh, fuck.
Cut that out.
So yeah, top 5 SummerSlam performers are Brock, Brett, Cena, Seth, Edge. Or
no Randy Orton.
No Randy Orton again.
I'm kidding. Scratch Edge, put Randy Orton there.
You're taking a bump on Thursday, it's official.
Man, we're getting chops on Thursday, man. We get that.
I think the only 2 wrestlers that have the case, well, 3 actually, are Orton because of the longevity, Lesnar and Hart for the moments and the matches that they've had in the recent past. Rollins can fight his way into that conversation in like the next 5 years. So yeah, those are my final thoughts.
Mr. WrestleDrop, Ricardo himself.
It's simple.
Final thought.
Bret Hart. All three of his memorable SummerSlam matches could be number 1 of all time. Great stories. For me, it's simple. Bret Hart. The longevity in those matches. It's not recency bias like the whole Brock Lesnar thing that you guys are going on about. Yeah, it's simple as that. Bret Hart for me. Seth Rollins could definitely in the next 5-10 years get there. Randy Orton for his longevity. Brock, I guess, for the moments. But yeah, for me, Bret.
Mr. Jungle King himself.
Bret Hart, the make on this list. Cena, Orton, Rock, of course, and yeah, I agree. In a few years' time, I'm going to say Rollins. That he's going to be on this list. But for now, in this place, I'd have to put Shawn Michaels. I have no other option there.
Michaels.
He had a great ladder match with Razor Ramon.
And a match and a street fight with Triple H.
Yep.
Oh man, I forgot to put that on the top 10 list. And on an honorable
mention. Because of those matches, but also because of his overselling mayhem against Hogan in 05.
Oh yeah.
Hogan deserved it.
Thought he wasn't.
Hogan deserved it. Hogan podcast, man.
Hogan deserved it.
Yeah.
Hogan deserves everything that comes his way.
It doesn't work for me, brother.
When 2 egos collide, you know it's gonna be a fucking chaotic ride. You know? Fucking shipwreck right there. But hey.
And the champ himself, the Loudmouth. Final thoughts.
The title again.
I hear voices in my head, they telling me to go to bed. You boring me. I'm so.
Oh man.
And for the views, can we see the title? Just for the views. Just for the extra life.
By the way, that's getting clipped. Him singing Randy's theme's getting clipped.
Oh, please send it to us.
We're not paying for the finish, brothers. Yeah, create some
That championship. That championship is coming. I'm bringing that championship to Mid City, boys. Watch me.
Listen here, this thing weighs more than you do, so please.
Oh my. Okay. Before this shit gets out of control.
Anyway, gentlemen, before the shit gets out of control, thank you so much for tuning in to yet another Stomp Wrestling Gang video. Thank you so much to our guests tonight, Mr. The Fire of Pro Wrestling. Follow him on TikTok and all his socials. The Loudmouth, follow him on TikTok and all his socials. And all of our socials will be down in the description below. Until the next one, it's been the Stomp Boys featuring some awesome South African wrestling content creators. The first of many, I feel, and because it's just too